Well, once the government finishes legalization, the next step is to roll out into the marketplace. Let's preview how that will happen and whether the plan as proposed will work in the world of free enterprise. Jodie Emery is owner of Cannabis Culture and a longtime activist in British Columbia, and she joins us from Vancouver. All right, Jodie, I know you were kind of skeptical of this task force when it was established. Are you pleasantly surprised by the recommendations?
That's right, I am pleasantly surprised. I'm actually quite shocked that they've offered a few very positive recommendations. I'm just hoping that the Liberal government will actually accept those recommendations, but that remains to be seen.
Well, if I'm reading your Twitter feed properly, you still find sort of the limits on the size of growing operations too restrictive. What would you want to see in that provision?
Well, I understand the federal government can't really dictate how big all the gardens can be. There are a lot of details that provinces and other areas need to deal with. My main concern, however, is that the government still talks about marijuana being harmful or a threat to people's safety in some way, which isn't true. And in fact, it just continues to let the government and the police work towards continuing enforcement with the money being spent going after growers who are not legal. And I also worry about all of the young people who are still facing criminal records and who are still being arrested every day. So across this country, prohibition is still in effect, and many Canadians are still getting records that will prevent them from traveling and getting jobs. So that's my biggest issue right now, not so much about the production or how much you can grow. It's the fact that many Canadians who have suffered under prohibition are still going to suffer right now and for years to come until this becomes an actual law.
Do you think what you're reading will work, or do you think the retail model that's currently in place for, say, medicinal marijuana in British Columbia is the way to go? It sounds like they don't really have a clear idea of how it'll be implemented at the provincial level, but what do you think should be done in that sector? What will be the point of contact between consumers and the retail market?
We should have something just like Amsterdam, where adults can go in and access cannabis and use it on site or take it home. And we have a lot of growers who are small craft cannabis growers. They should be allowed to provide their product to the market in some way. But when we're looking at the licensed producers that have been authorized under Health Canada for medical marijuana, I'm concerned that they've made it clear they hope to control most of the legal recreational market. But we know that the licensed producers are not able to meet the demands of the patients, so I don't think they'll be able to meet the demands of the millions of recreational users across Canada. So hopefully they won't be the only ones in control of production of cannabis, and the restrictions banning others will be loosened so more people can participate in the production side.
That's interesting. One idea I hadn't thought of before, but they're thinking of pricing it by its potency of THC. Does that make any sense to you?
That does not make any sense, because if you get a brick of hash from Afghanistan decades ago, that's pretty high THC content. So those sort of limits on THC levels don't really make any sense, especially given that there are old school type of cannabis products that wouldn't really pass. But when you're looking at the government, again, they're talking about concerns about safety in the public, and they like to have some sort of rules in place. But I don't think it's fair to put a sin tax on any cannabis products, because cannabis is not a sin. A sin tax should be for something that's harmful, like alcohol or tobacco, whereas cannabis can actually prevent people from using and abusing alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceutical drugs. So we should actually encourage cannabis use, because it is a much safer option for people, and it's far less harmful than many of the drugs that people are being pushed by their doctors. So I hope to encourage more of that.
All right, Joe. I'm not sure you're going to get that through this government of encouraging use, but you know, I'll give you a nod for your experience and expertise. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.